You look at all 51 games holistically that we've had in the playoff era. You've had 3 that are historically good overtime games. You've had 3 overtime games out of 51. You had another 10 that were one-score ball games. So 13 of them that would fall under great, about 25%. You've got another 10 that would be considered good games, 10-point ball games, not coming down to the wire, but very, very good competitive ball games. And that's about 20% of your ball games. You have 5 that would fall into that 10 to 20 range that are kind of an average football game. So you're looking at about 10%. You've got 11 of them that were blowouts from 20 to 29 point differentials. And you've got 12 of them that were beatdowns, so about 23%. So when you look at it, you've got about 45% that fall on the good side. You've got about 45% that fall on the bad side. And you got about 10% that fall in the middle. That's in the overall 51 teams or 51 games. If you look at it in the context of the 4-team, 3-game playoff, we're skewing a little bit better, and I'll show you. You've got two of the overtime games and 7 great games, so 10 great games in that time period. So about 10, right at 30% of your games. You've got only 2 that fell into the good category, so only 7%. You've got another 4 that fell into the average, 13%. You've got 6 that were blowouts and 8 that were beat down, so 20 and 30%. Respectively. So only about 37% of your games would be on the positive side, and 67% are going to fall on the negative side when you look at this overall. So that tells you right there that expanding the playoff has made it better, because when you look at the 12-team, and we've only got a 2-year window of this, but I think the results have been better. You've got 1 historically good game. You've got 3 great games. You've got 8 good games, 1 average game, 5 blowouts, and 3 beatdowns. So 19% of them are great games. 38% of them are good games. 5% are kind of average. 24% are blowouts. 14% are beatdowns. So 57% now are positive. 38 to the negative. So you're up 20 points on the positive side, and you're down almost 30 on the negative side, or you're down, 29 on the negative side. So it's gotten better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The 12-team playoff, as much as people want to wring their hands about the group of 5 being involved, it has not hurt our overall numbers. It basically skews identical to power teams. And people say, but those teams can't win. And maybe they can't. So maybe it's a little more predetermined. Maybe we don't have, so maybe the interest is not as high in seeing those teams in there. But the thought that they can't compete, they can't win is, while that may have some truth to it, the reality is the numbers are no worse than they are when we put group power teams in there. It just doesn't really change. And we've seen a huge uptick in better games, and partially because I think simply we don't do that good a job of just picking them out of a hat. And that's the way it feels a lot of times with the committee. The bigger it gets, maybe the little less contrived it is. You get more teams that earn their way in. Like I said, I am no proponent of the committee, but I will defend them on this. They did exactly what they were told to do as far as the teams that got in. The at-large teams is very nebulous. That's one of my biggest complaints with the entire system is it changes the people on the committee change, so it changes from year to year where they put their weight down and what becomes important. And as long as that's going on, it's going to be frustrating to coaches and fans. Notre Dame stomping their feet and throwing a fit this year, it was extremely predictable what was going to happen. We were talking about it 2 weeks out, that Notre Dame was in a very precarious situation. And it bore out. It ended up kind of exactly the nightmare scenario you thought it might for them. And the simple answer to that is get in a conference. And I think they will eventually have to, because I think scheduling is going to force them in that direction. But the reality is, who did you beat? Your best victory was against the third place team or the fourth place team in the Big Ten. And I think there was a massive drop off in the Big Ten between number 3 and number 4. And that was your hang your hat. The only other 2 ranked teams you played, you got beat by. Yeah, they were close games, but you lost. And, you know, what drives me nuts more than anything else in this whole conversation is when they use the term a good loss. Find me a coach that will ever tell you they had a good loss, and I will find you a coach that has a losing record. There is no such thing as a good loss. Now, there are losses that are worse than others. There's no doubt about that. There are bad losses, but all losses are bad. It's just the degree to which how bad they might be. And, you know, I can't really complain too much about who the committee put in with the directions, the limited directions they have. Now, I would like to see, I think it's very correctable. I think it could happen when they go to 16 teams, and it could happen easily. It won't, because you have the Big Ten and the SEC want to manipulate the situation and get as many teams as they can in. Well, 2 years ago it was the SEC that only got 3 in. This year was the Big Ten that only got 3 in. My suggestion is a very simple one, and it becomes doable next year. And you have 2 formats with which it can fall under. The first one is simply take the top 4 teams from every power conference and put them in the playoffs. And then you give the group of 5 an option. 1, we will give to you your own 16-team playoff that will be subsidized and paid for by, you're going to get the big money you would get playing into the playing with the big boys. And we're going to make that happen because we're going to hold the ESPN and their partners to the fire, and we're going to make sure that happens. So you'd have 2 16-team playoffs. Group of 5 and the Power 5 would both have, or the Power 4 would both have their playoff, and you just simply tell the Group of 5, we will take your top 16 teams, but we suggest you get into 4 conferences, or you can tell them we'll take your top 4 from every conference if you're, or there's ways to do it without mandating it. Simply say, if you got 18 teams or more, we're going to put you in, we're going to give you top 4 teams a bid. And you will have 4 group of 5 conferences before you can turn around twice. And basically do the same thing with the power conferences. Give them a couple years, but we want everybody at 18. And oh, by the way, there's no at-larges. Notre Dame. So pick your conference. And oh, by the way, everybody's going to 18. So it's not going to be the Big Ten. You can stay at home in the ACC. You can go to the SEC. You can go to the Big 12. But if you want to be in the playoff, you're going to have to join a conference for football. I mean, to me, it's not the end-all, be-all, fixed everything. Actually have another show that we're doing called the College Football Fix, where we will address every single aspect of how you make a real live playoff, preserve the rivalry games, preserve all the things that we love about college football, and incorporate NIL, the transfer portal, and all the things that, it's not that we necessarily hate them, but they're destroying the sport we love, because we cannot continue down the track we're going. If we do, there will not be a college football left that we even remotely recognize. So that's another show. The College Football Fix, keep an eye out on that. We'll be dropping that one. Probably going to be on Wednesdays, I believe, is the day we picked for that. We'll have, this show drops on Mondays normally. We will have a short, fun Rankum show that we will drop on Tuesdays. Thursdays don't have anything scheduled right now. Fridays we'll have another college drive show that drops, and on Saturdays we're doing a college travel show, and that is basically exactly what it says. It is, we're calling it the college pilgrimage, and it is I think that's what we picked. But it will involve, I guess we ought to change it to the sports pilgrimage, because it will, even though it's going to be very college football centric, those months of the year, it will be college football with maybe another sport thrown in. But we'll do it as a year-round show. Baseball can be fun to do that way. Really, any of the sports can. A little harder to do. Be hard to do it with pro football, simply because you might have a Thursday and a Sunday you can tie together, or a Monday night. But really easy to do with baseball, basketball, and hockey, and you can roll in some Major League Soccer, and with college sports kind of being the backbone of it. But we will have a lot of fun. That's a fun show that we'll drop on Saturdays, and we're going to do those several months out, so that if it's something that sounds like you might want to do it, you would actually have time to plan it. But we'll go into depth with that one and kind of talk about airfares and hotels, ticket prices, those kind of things. So we got to get a real feel for what that pricing might look like to go on a trip like that. I've made several of these. We did a great one this year with my oldest grandson's birthday, turned 13. I let him pick where we were going. We made a great trip to Texas. We're going to share that one in episode 1. But I've done it for Michigan State, gone up to the Carolinas and done a Maction trip. That was a lot of fun. So they're quick, easy, fun trips. Get to see parts of the country. What I really like about the college football aspect of it, more so than the pro sports, is it gets you off the beaten path. Why else would I necessarily go to, pick your small town that has a college in it, Waco, Texas. How often am I going to have a reason to go to Waco, Texas? How often am I going to have a reason to go to Kent, Ohio? I mean, it just gets you off the beaten path. It's just a lot of fun. Anyhow, getting back to our subject at hand that we were talking about, as I'll get distracted. I can't make a case for the group of 5 hurting our playoff. I just can't. Now, I will make a case that we would be better off if they had their own. They would have the opportunity to win a championship. But as far as having a huge impact on, because here's the thing, here's where we're at with this. If you didn't win your conference and you're not ranked in the top 10, I really don't care that you got left out. Does it mean you couldn't win it all? No, it doesn't. But it means you didn't perform well enough during the season to have anything to gripe about. Play better. Win your conference. I would not have an issue if every conference champion had a bid in. And that's one thing I like about doing the top 4 from every conference. And, the other option to that is if the group of 5 didn't want to do their own, okay, we'll do a 20-team playoff. The 4th team in from every major conference would play the top 4 conference champs out of the group of 5 in a play-in game, basically. And then nobody could complain that it was coming out of them and ruining their playoff. We just get more football. But I do like the idea of giving them something where they could actually compete and potentially win a championship. I think that adds a lot of excitement to it. Let's take another quick break. We'll hear from our sponsors over on the radio side. We'll be right back here on the YouTube side of this. Actually, this wraps up our show on the YouTube. We're going to do, the next segment will be the Rankum Show, which will drop on Tuesdays. But we'll be part of the radio show. So if you want to get that a day early, streamcity.org is your port of call. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment with more. The host James O'Brien here on Stream City Radio, Stream City Sports on the YouTube. Back in a moment.